All right, welcome to episode 354 of the 5 to Go podcast. We're going to get into looking back to COTA. It was the third race in a row that at least one of us from the podcast was at the racetrack. Looking back to, of course, the milestone for Tyler Reddick, and then getting into some headlines that we didn't get into last week, including Chris Gabehart versus Joe Gibbs Racing, some more news about Cleetus McFarland and a big-time O'Reilly team that are getting together. And also talking about the surprise substitute driver situation with Alex Bowman and also his missing Phoenix coming up. And then, of course, we'll look ahead to Phoenix with the second weekend in a row of some sort of NASCAR IndyCar doubleheader. But before I introduce Devin and Dan, I'm Doug Fireball Turnbull. I need to apologize to our audience, okay? We recorded last Thursday, and I was on a really compressed schedule, and then I had to travel Friday. And it's like, as I was traveling, I was like, crap, I did not upload last week's episode. No problem. I've got the Riverside app on my iPad. That's what we use to record this. I'll just upload it then. Maybe it'll be missing some elements, but we'll have at least all of us in there. And that just, frankly, it did not work as far as the whole episode or anything like that. We got it up on YouTube, but to get it to the other places, it wasn't going there to Apple, Spotify, and GoPRN.com. So I apologize for that not landing in your potty spaces, except for on YouTube, until Monday, as a lot of that was looking ahead to Circuit of the Americas. But it is worth some episodes. It's just a retrospective, and then it's old news, and then we're on to the next one. Last week's was worth it. If you missed it, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. spent the first half hour with us. He talked about eating steak with a camper. He talked about how he has a kind of quote-unquote fake ranch at home. And he talked about the little engine that could, Hayek Motorsports, and his start to the season, and also crashing with his buddy Riley Herbst. So check that out. All the places you find the show. One of our YouTube commenters, and I love when you all comment, especially when you say things that make sense. They threw some shade at Ricky because he said, oh, yeah, we went out there, and he said, I didn't catch any fishes instead of fish. And somebody wrote fishes in the comment section. So respond right here. Is it okay for a Daytona 500 champion to use bad grammar? Respond right here. Olive Branch, Mississippi's Ricky Stenhouse Jr. All right, so there you go. I'm Doug Fireball Turnbull. I was on the announcing team, Performance Racing Network, this past week. I'm with the traffic team here in Atlanta, Georgia, at 11 Alive WXIA TV with Rachel Cox-Rosen and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution Gridlock guy. Honored to be with you. Joining us on hand, now this guy works at Culver's 19 and a half hours every day. We have caught him in his only break he's had this week. That's why we're recording so late in the week these days, because he's trying to scrape in that money because we need a newsroom or an organization to hashtag hire Devin Kupka. University of North Georgia grad, a roving racing journo. Devin Kupka, sir, how you holding up on your rare break? And do you smell like cheese curds?
No, I don't smell like cheese curds, but probably my uniforms do for sure. But I'm doing well. Still working a lot. One of our managers has been out the past few weeks, so I've been helping cover. And actually, I'm going in early today. Might be hitting overtime this week. We'll see. But had a very, very busy February, as y'all know. Covered the Daytona 500, Echo Park Speedway weekend. And guess what I just did last weekend? I helped close the college bar that I went to a lot, Johnny B's. Here's the T-shirt that they gave out last week. They paved Johnny B's and put up a parking lot. So that's my tribute to the great late Johnny B's in Dahlonega.
And here's my tribute to Devin getting so many hours. Culver's.
I don't even have that. I don't even have that flag.
I meant to give this to you at Echo Park Speedway. So the next time we are together, I will make sure and get you the flag.
I had been out so much in September, I didn't even get a crew T-shirt that month.
Oh, is there a different T-shirt at Culver's each month?
No, just for National Cheese Curd Day, but they do it throughout the whole month of October.
Ah, man. Well,
time to hit eBay.
You're going to go to eBay to buy your own work T-shirt?
Don't do that. I might.
Don't do that.
You never know.
Don't become you are too young to become a hoarder already.
And cheaper than going through the company sometimes.
Whoa. Don't become a hoarder of Culver's stuff. Don't do it. Don't do it. Well, we'll get you the flag. Respond right here. Okay. Hey, also joining us on the line, a guy that it's okay for him to be a hoarder. We love the stuff he collects. It's all right. No, I don't think he's a hoarder at all. But he's got a Thunderbird back behind him there. He's in the Dawsonville garage there, cranking on those gears. Transmission specialist, 1988 championship mechanic, 2018 Georgia Racing Hall of Fame inductee, and we're honored he spends his time for us. With us, Dawsonville Dan Elliott. What's up with you, sir?
Enjoying the beautiful weather. I don't know if we need to fire the groundhogs that we were listening to. Just feels like a few days ago, but it was a few weeks ago. But the weather is just absolutely for the better part of for us, the better part of the last week, on and off, but especially this week has been amazing. I enjoyed the cooler air at the first of the week, but now it's beginning to warm up more and humidity's building in. So get ready for the thunderstorms, I'm sure. But enough of that. Let's get on with the racing program because
there you
a lot
go.
to talk about. And Devin's got to get to work.
Cheese curds await. And by the way, I think chasing NASCAR out of town is what brought the warm weather, because it was nice and warm and pleasant in Atlanta through the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then cold, and then it got right back warm again too. So I don't know what to say about that. Still, there was a great crowd at Echo Park Speedway, which we had only a little bit of time to look back on in last week's episode with our special guest Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in the seat. Again, check that out. All right, so I was at Circuit of the Americas. The trucks were in St. Petersburg, Florida, on the streets there, and they were paired with IndyCar's doubleheader. All right. Lane Riggs went to Victory Lane there on Saturday afternoon. We were actually, as tough as this is to do when you don't have a lot of resources out in the turns, we're like all on the PRN broadcast. The show has started, and especially as turn announcers that aren't that we aren't on the pre-race show very much. We're all like trying to watch the truck race on our phones, like in the sun, squinting and things like that. Lane Riggs put on a heck of a battle with Ben Rhodes and Riggs' teammate Chandler Smith. I don't know where Christian came from. Christian Eckes is in the truck series. We also saw Dario Franchitti, 52 years old, go out there and stay in the top 10 until he brushed the wall and cut a tire, and he had another mechanical issue too. He was gassed after that race. Tyler Reddick, the youngster for Nice Motorsports, had to get transported to the hospital with heat exhaustion out there. So the trucks had a rough and tumble start to the year, and driver health was something we were a little bit worried about across all series, because there are several drivers that were struggling with it, having cool suit issues in the O'Reilly race on Saturday. And then in Sunday's Cup race, A.J. Allmendinger needed treatment afterwards. Eric Jones was really sick during the race. Ryan Preece, I believe, had a cool shirt issue, I heard. And then Alex Bowman actually got taken out of the car. More on that in a moment. The headlines, though: Shane Van Gisbergen wins Saturday but cannot make it 6 straight road course wins on Sunday. He finishes runner-up in the Cup Series race to, a guy who broke a 6-day winless streak. Tyler Reddick, ladies and gentlemen. Tyler Reddick, who has made NASCAR history, as anybody listening I'm sure has heard, as the first driver to win the first 3 races of the year. Mike Joy's call, and I like Mike Joy, they said that nobody could do it. And then he won the 3rd race in a row to start the year, and no one had done that. But, of course, I'm like, well, just last year we had somebody win 3 races in a row. It just wasn't to start the season. It's not 4 races in a row. There's only been a few that have ever done it. But, I don't know. It's a huge feat nonetheless. But I'm like, it's not impossible. In fact, I put, not money, but on a different show, I picked him to do it this weekend. Ride the wave, right? So let's look back on Circuit of the Americas. I didn't spend a ton of time mixing it up with drivers. I was on the qualifying broadcast, couldn't go to their bullpens. But it seemed like they said they had the largest crowd they've ever had at COTA. Temperatures were in the 80s. It was hot out there, although it was very windy as well. And the barriers, the tire packs that they put in the S's seemed to work. No driver got called for being out of bounds. They all had to drive a little more carefully through the S's. And they probably couldn't just run each other off the track either, they said. But it made the track a little bit harder. And it wasn't quite as exciting for sure as Atlanta, but that's road course racing, right? So Tyler Reddick's Victory Lane over Shane Van Gisbergen. I'd love to get you guys' retrospective on it. I enjoyed watching it. I wish there'd been a little more drama at the end. Ross Chastain did make it interesting there, and then we'll get to the relief driver stuff in a moment. Dan, you first. We're down to 4 road course races now. We used to have 6 or 7. What'd you think about this one?
I love COTA, I really do. And like I said, a lot of people don't like the road courses. I do. I thought the race was good. I thought, as you, that it could have been more interesting in the final stages, the final laps, because I really didn't expect Ryan Blaney. That was kind of I know he runs good, but that was surprised me for him to run as good as he did run.
And then to fade.
Yeah, and SVG had a good run. I thought that he would be a contender in the final laps, but Reddick drove away from him in the final stage of that, and it just looked like from the onset, as you go back through this, because there were several times that Reddick got challenged for the lead, but nobody was successful in getting by him, which I think if anybody would have surely shaken up what I think could have been the outcome. But that was the only thing. And otherwise, but I enjoyed the racing through the rest of the field when the cameras got into the other packs of cars that were trying to decide positions as the race progressed on, especially toward the end when you got into the last stage.
Oh, it was very interesting to see. You've only got another, one or two last shots here. What's going to happen? And it's the pit strategy. The tires mattered in this race. They're the same road course tires from a year ago, but more horsepower. The tire and a hotter track that was starting to wear out a little bit. Tires were definitely a factor in this race. And you saw the drivers that took tires at the end of that race just cut right through the field. We were thinking Christopher Bell and Michael McDowell were going to really put it to Tyler Reddick and SVG in the front, and they just couldn't get to him. Once the field got stretched out enough, that was it. We also thought, Devin, that Shane Van Gisbergen was just going to be the dominant person because of the tire factor, and Tyler Reddick had a beat. And I think that says more about Reddick than it does about SVG. But what'd you think about it all?
Yeah, I mean, I was monitoring SVG's lap times and Tyler Reddick's lap times throughout the race, and while SVG was pretty much almost getting pretty close to Reddick's lap times or sometimes even matching him, he was never really ever faster than Tyler Reddick, which I think was really impressive. And I thought the most fascinating thing this weekend was the fact that, and you have to go back to Saturday, I believe Tyler Reddick was 20th in practice.
Oh, yeah.
Then ends up on the pole.
Yep.
Goes out and wins the race. Now, this is one of those track position deals where track position is so key at these courses, but really impressive by Tyler Reddick. I thought it was a decent race. I didn't have any problems with it at all. I thought it was good. The strategy was certainly interesting. Were these drivers going to try and catch Reddick? And because there was also history on the line, too, because no NASCAR Cup Series driver has ever won 3 straight to begin the season. So that was really cool to see. And then Michael Jordan being at the track.
Yeah.
But I thought it was really good. The race was good. I think the new layout of this course is really starting to pay off, too. I mean, the fans are obviously responding to that at the track in Austin, Texas. So I thought it was a really, really solid race on Sunday.
And I'm a lucky lady. I got to call the S's, which I have most years there. But in the adding turn 6A in, that just it's not even a 90 it's not even a 90-degree right-hander. It's almost 45 degrees. They have to turn like this, or it's like 60 degrees. But the way the drivers take the turn, they make it obtuse and go right out toward that makeshift wall in the cut through. It's really exciting because it looks like they're going to wipe each other out every time they go through there, and they just barely make it through, even when they're too wide. Very, very exciting. You mentioned not only Tyler Reddick, but the other Toyotas were really struggling in practice. Now, they only had a few minutes of practice. There were 2 groups, and it was either 15 or 20 minutes each, something like that. And they were way off. Chase Briscoe, Ty Gibbs, who's good at road racing, all these guys were in the back. They go and make one adjustment, qualify, pew, right there to the front. That made all the difference in the world. And Reddick got the pole for the second week in a row. So he won the first 3 races of the year. He's had poles the last 2 weeks. He also had won poles at COTA the last 2 years. I mean, and this is the first time he's ever won for the second time at a racetrack. I think it's career win number 11 for him. He had won at 10 consecutive races, or so to speak, tracks that were first time. Now he has 2 wins at COTA, having won in 2023. Tyler Reddick led 58 of the 95 laps. Your winner, Shane Van Gisbergen, was second. Christopher Bell rebounded after a tough start. 2 crashes, first 2 races to finish third. Ty Gibbs ended up fourth, and he got shuffled to the back a couple of times there, had some issues in the race at one point. Very impressive run for him. And we're going to get to his name being in the news maybe for some wrong ways in a minute when we talk about some lawsuit stuff. Michael McDowell, for the second time in 3 weeks, he finished fifth, but here's what he did the second time in 3 weeks. Travis Peterson, his crew chief, left him out to be way ahead of everybody, and it looked like they were going to try to one-stop the last stage instead of two, or they were going to try to do it all in one step. I mean, they considered it. When the caution came out, they had to pit, but they had built a sizable lead, and I do think that Reddick and Van Gisbergen on tires were probably going to blow the 71's doors off, and he probably was going to finish fifth anyway, but why not take the risk and just see? And when they put tires on, I'm like, oh, gosh, because Reddick and SVG and some others stayed out, and Michael McDowell and Christopher Bell drove from about 15th or so, and they couldn't quite get to the front. But McDowell, probably on that strategy, ended up in net neutral, but still finished fifth. A really good run. That Spire team, somebody in the Spire organization each week is impressive, if not more than one. Keep an eye on them. Kyle Larson, whose winless streak is 10 months now, he finished sixth. Yeah, last year's champion, hasn't won since last May. Chase Elliott is seventh. Ryan Blaney led 11 laps, was one of the guys that could really put it to Reddick, but couldn't keep up with him. He finished eighth. A.J. Allmendinger, cool suit failure, post-race treatment, still gutted that Celsius Chevy to ninth, and 10th went to Denny Hamlin. By the way, Bubba Wallace still second in points. He is 11th, but, and I know, Devin, you've looked at the point standings. Dan, have you looked? Do you know what the gap from first to second in points is right now? I know it's only 3 races, but man, have you seen
I know
this?
what the gap, me and Devin talked about this before you got on, and I know the gap from first to fifth. So, yep, but you can tell everybody what that gap is because it's close.
It's 70 from first to second, and what is it, 96 from
96
first to fifth.
fifth.
So the gap from first to fifth is almost the same gap as what first to 16th is when the chase starts.
Yeah, but as me and Devin talked about before you got on, is the fact that you're 3 races in,
Yeah,
and you've got a lot of people that haven't suffered the luck factor, if you want to call it that, whatever you want to call it. And we've got a long season to go, and you don't have any idea when your luck may turn around, your skill, your experience, or somebody else's lack of experience is going to cause you to have a bad day.
well, and it's just a matter of time. People are already saying, "Can we? I mean, is he going to be the champion, or has he clinched his spot in the playoffs on points because he's won through?" No, absolutely not. First to 8th is 100 points, by the way. So first to 5th is 96. First to 8th, that's how close it is. So you have 2 drivers tied for 5th, Logano and Van Gisbergen, minus 90 apiece. Or sorry, they have 90 total points apiece. Right behind him is Daniel Suarez, of course, like we all predicted, 7th in points, and A.J. Allmendinger's 8th at minus 86. Then it goes not minus 86. He's minus 100 points. And then it's Michael McDowell and Carson Hocevar, who are only 3 and 4 points behind Allmendinger, respectively. So, like, all 3 Spire cars are in the top 10 in points. And that's with Carson Hocevar running like dog crap on Sunday. That is dang impressive over 3 races. But let's get some oval tracks, and let's certainly throw in downforce in Vegas and all that before we really read too seriously here, right, Dev?
If you look at the standings right now, I mean, SVG jumped up 11 spots this weekend. That just shows how early we are in the season.
But
how tight it is.
Short track is what really is going to alter this. And when you get into that and some of the 1.5-mile tracks that one of the other teams is really, really good at, it's going to change, and it's going to be a long season. And I just hope that in this long season that we continue to have some good racing, as I think we've seen so far.
We definitely have seen that so far. In the O'Reilly Series, Shane Van Gisbergen won that one and dominated. Wasn't a whole lot of doubt in that race. But Austin Hill was second. And we forget how good he is at road courses. And it was Austin Hill versus SVG 2 years ago who had a real throwdown for the top spot and did in multiple road course races. All right? And Hill, was really pissed at him after last year's COTA race. I remember that. Because they moved each other out of the way on the last lap, and Connor Zilic won. But they were first and second. Sammy Smith needed a good run after some crash damage the first 2 weeks. He was third in the race. Jesse Love, really good road racer, fourth. Corey Day was fifth, and I need to shout out 17-year-old, God almighty help us, O'Reilly debut, and he actually got up there and led 5 laps at one point, and that was number 19, Brent Cruz. He'll be back behind the wheel of the Joe Gibbs Toyota this coming week. Then he has to sit out Vegas and Darlington, and then I think after that he'll be about 18 and about ready to roll there. But Brent Cruz finished 6th. That was impressive too. I was really on Saturday. I knew that SVG and Connor Zilic were going to be the guys, and Connor Zilic started on the pole. But I was like, man, what if Brent Cruz got in the middle of that? Because he's expected. He has the same pedigree as Zilic does. So, any takes from Saturday's race, guys? I mean, it was a pretty straightforward affair as well.
No, I think SVG was excited about his win, though.
He was. He was not excited about not punting the rugby ball into the stands, though. He did fall short on that one, which I didn't see myself. I was way too far away to see it. But, yeah, he got some flack for that. Yeah, Dev?
The only part, I got to catch the opening laps of the O'Reilly race on Saturday in between the 2 UNG basketball games, and I thought it was a cool battle between SVG and Zilic to start off the race, but that's pretty much all that I caught on Saturday, except practice and qualifying in the morning.
Yeah. It was fun. Great facility, great time. Pretty straightforward race weekend. Corey Day has taken a lot of flack for some moves he's made in all 3 races to start this year. And I feel like we're starting to get on the rage bait train here. Although having him go from barely running anything in stock cars to suddenly just running full-time at O'Reilly Series seems like a lot to me, especially in a car as good as that. He hip checked Connor Zilic and wrecked him off of turn 2 late in the Saturday's race. And by the way, Connor Zilic was up there running in the top 5 late in that race after having changed a right rear brake rotor on pit road. All right. There is a piece of the brake assembly that broke. I'm not, Heather DeBoe did an incredible job explaining it on Performance Racing Network. But Rodney Childers, who is crew chief the wheels off of everything for years, said that that's a first for him ever changing one of those on pit road. They changed it. The number 1 team, which normally is driven by Carson Quapple, he was in the 91 this week. The number 1 team changed it on pit road. They stayed on the lead lap, and Zilic still drove back to the front. Zilic also had multiple problems. Sunday got spun off turn 1 twice and drove back to the front, and then in the end of the race drove up to 14th. But what'd you think about that, Dan, changing a brake rotor on pit road and then coming back from it?
I've seen a lot of things done on pit road that really you don't think that you have time to do. But when it comes down to it, the hardest part would have been dealing with the caliper, the brake pads, and so forth, and the heat of all of this stuff, trying to get this changed and not burning yourself up. But really, It's remarkable over the years what I've seen. And even down to the early years, you remember when Junior Johnson them changed engines during a race, they lost laps.
Of course.
But obviously to do this in a race and not lose any more time, I think they got down to 11 or 15 minutes to do a motor change, which is when you're set up to do that. And obviously they knew what they were doing and they knew they could get this done. And what else are you going to do anyway?
Yeah, I mean, you might as well go out and race, right? Instead of just giving up. And in this, so we're back to all points matter, and we're going to get to the substitute driver thing in a second with Alex Bowman, Myatt Snider. That Connor's, they could have just said, "Hey, the 1 team, we'll probably win a race later in the year. Zilic will drive it again." But every point matters, and we saw that because Carson Quapple in the 91 DGM racing car took strategy. He had a couple of rough races there, crashed into the first 2 races. All right. Carson Quapple stayed out on tires to gain some stage points. I think it was stage 2 in Saturday's race, and that was part of the calculus for them. The 91 team was not going to worry about points as much, multiple drivers and all that. They actually got crashed on lap 0 of the Daytona race in Mason Maggio on the start of that race. I mean, but Quapple, and by the way, keep note of what Quapple, of what Raja Caruth, what both of them do is they have to split up in other cars this season. Keep up with how they manage points and do that. That's going to be big.
Was I more surprised with a rotor change or a driver change on Sunday?
Well, let's get to that. Okay, respond right here. All right. So I just love saying that. So I was surprised to see a driver change just because but I didn't know why Alex Bowman was struggling. I kept going. He has one of the best average finishes of all drivers at COTA over these few years. He's really good there. And he's running 33rd or something. I'm going, what in the world is going on? I mean, running like almost getting passed by Cody Ware. No offense, but like what's going on? And then I hear them, talking about on our broadcast that he's sick and they're waiting for a chance to change drivers. Mm-hmm. And he actually drives to the garage and does it. They don't do it on pit road. And the person they put behind the wheel was not Hendrick Motorsports' normal substitute driver, Anthony Alfredo, who will be in Bowman's place this weekend as Bowman is suffering from vertigo, which I can't imagine that's not related to what was going on Sunday. I had no idea, but it's hard to separate the two, right? But they goes to the garage, and Myatt Snider, who is a pit spotter. So here's how we relate this to PRN. Normally, Jamie Little's pit spotter, which is basically their producer in the pits. Now, PRN, we don't have those. With TV, they do, okay? Heather DeBow, who is a PRN pit reporter, is normally Jamie Little's pit spotter. Well, this week it was Myatt Snider, who normally is helping pick the pit reporters on broadcast when he is not a driver. So Myatt Snider is filling in for a PRN reporter, and then gets called to fill in for a full-time Hendrick Motorsports driver. So there's the tie to PRN. So he had his driver suit and helmet ready, and they had to, I don't know if they had to do, I think he's a similar height to Alex Bowman. They just plucked him in the car. Bowman reportedly was having some sort of stomach issues, and Wendy Venturini, PRN pit reporter, said that they had to stick blowers in the car to part the seas, I guess, whatever that means. We're never going to know the true story, I'm sure, for Myatt Snider. Snider was not allowed to talk to the media after the race, but he went out there basically to just complete laps. There were 5 laps down and just finish the race in case there was a big crash. And you notice when the race restarted for the Ross Chastain caution where they changed out Alex Bowman, he was nowhere near turn 1. he was just soft pedaling it through there in case the whole field cashed itself in. So Dan, were you more surprised by the brake rotor or by Myatt Snider, the pit producer, becoming Myatt Snider, driver number 48 for a few laps?
Definitely the driver change. And I'm like everybody else. I think I didn't see that one coming, and especially not the chosen driver for the finish of the race. And I imagine it did come down to basically, if he fit in the car, then this is what we're going to do, because go out and make laps, finish the race, and that's what we want you to do. No risk, no chances. Just go out and finish the race.
And I'm sure a lot of you, Devin, I'm sure you saw this. Brad Perez, who was brought in as I knew I was forgetting something. He was brought in as a substitute driver for the ill J.J. Yaley. Yaley was falling out of the seat, he said. Yaley's in his late 40s, all right? He was falling out of the seat. They brought in Brad Perez, who works as a crew member at Young's Motorsports, to replace J.J. Yaley. Myatt Snider was texting Brad Perez about the braking points for turn 6A, the hard left-hander that I got to call. And then Brad Perez put him on blast and started that on social media. Yeah, imagine you've got this one job, this one mentality, and you've got to flip the switch and get in the car. And there was some talk, wait a second, you're allowed to make your Cup debut in a Gen 7 car on a road course, and what David Green, who's basically NASCAR's head safety inspector, he has a different title, but David Green, who's a former O'Reilly Series champion, 1994, I know Dan knows that, not in his head. David Green, they said on the Holler Talk podcast that Myatt Snider was approved because of how much he's run in the O'Reilly Series. He won the Homestead race 5 years ago outright in the Childers number 21 car. Snider was approved to run road courses and short tracks and Cup. If this had been Daytona, they couldn't have put him in. They would have had to put Alfredo or whoever. I don't know why they didn't put Alfredo in. I don't know if it's a size thing or if he'd already left or what, but that's to be determined. But that's how he was approved to run it. Some people said, well, you can't just go make your debut in the middle of a Cup race. Bro, hold on. Connor Zilic made his everybody made their debut at some time. So calm down. He was 5 laps down. He didn't touch anybody. He got some laps in and helped the team out, and hopefully that helps him in the long run there. What do you think, Dev?
I think it's because of circumstance, too, because this was later in the race when they made the driver swap, too.
Very late.
And
Very late.
At that point, if you're a backup driver, you're probably, unless you know there could be something up potentially going into a race, at that point it's probably, all right, it's time to get on out of here. And how many drivers are backup drivers realistically at the track? So I think it was just circumstance that they had to do it.
Yeah.
It was either that or a DNF.
So that's what some had said, because there's the mechanical crew that comes with the team, and then there's the pit crew, right? And I'd heard said somewhere that Alfredo, maybe it was on Door Bumper Clear, they just kind of share things as chat around the garage. They don't always know, but that Alfredo might have already left on the team plane by the time Bowman got sick enough to get out. Whereas Harrison Burton, who I learned this weekend, Harrison Burton is the relief driver for Legacy Motor Club. Harrison Burton was on hand and was in his driver's suit ready to go for a sick Eric Jones. But Jones just decided, screw it, I'm staying in the car. But in Bowman's case, I think it was just too much. And it showed, the results showed it. Jones was way off the pace, too. Just a terrible race for the 43. But Jones stayed in the car. Brad Keselowski, gutsy finish, broken leg, using that leg to clutch and finishing in the 20th position. I know 20th is nothing we sneeze about with anyone, but frankly, I'm impressed that Brad Keselowski finishes 20th on a road course these days healthy. And he said it hurt, but he put it out of his mind. Just that adrenaline was pumping. That's the quote I read to Jeff Gluck in The Athletic there. But I know we've seen gutsy performances, but that was big.
Did you notice the last of the race when Tyler Reddick was doing the victory lane thing and so forth? Did you notice him limping any? Did you notice it looked as if he was, but it wasn't really evident, but it looked as if he was limping a little bit after the race was over. And I didn't know if it might be whether it was because that would have to be, to do what he did would be grueling nonetheless. And you have no idea as far as whether the foot or leg might have been cramping or any of a number of things, blisters, anything, but I didn't know if anybody else noticed that or not.
I did not. I had not seen any mention of that anywhere. So
yep.
Yeah, you had your eyes on it. He was sick during the Atlanta race, though.
Yep.
And Freddie Kraft, who's Bubba Wallace's spotter on Door Bumper Clear, said that they had Ryan Truex on standby for Reddick in the Atlanta race. And, yeah, he obviously stayed in the car. So gutsy, man. I mean, these drivers, we don't give them enough credit. One thing I think Kyle Petty mentioned is this was the first hot weather race of the year, and just you're in a different condition this time of the season than you are later in the season. So that could play into why so many drivers were falling out. I say falling out, that were struggling. There's the whole cool shirt thing too, which those didn't exist back in the day, but cool shirts have come on the last few years. When they stop working, you've got this shirt full of what's becoming hot water on you.
Yeah, they call that a boil-in bag.
A boiling bag. I feel like there should be a reservoir where you could at least hit a button and empty the cool shirt.
They call that a knife.
But you can't cut through the Nomex or whatever the fire suit's made out. Like, there should be a thing where you could empty the cool suit so it doesn't affect the weight of the car. It empties out. And you have a heavy shirt on, but at least the tubes are empty, right? I mean,
you could do something like Mario Kart. You say, "Hey, I don't like this guy behind me." You just get the hose out and then put water on the track and make him spin out.
Can you imagine if NASCAR started having obstacles you could throw out of the car?
No.
Can you imagine? Oh my gosh! Please don't ever NASCAR. You're just starting to get it right.
Ideas here.
No, they're not going to do that.
No,
they're not going to do that. All right, we're going to get to Chris Gabehart and Joe Gibbs in a moment, but I think this is the appropriate place because we're talking about drivers and experience and oh my God and all that stuff. Let's talk about Cleetus McFarland. I didn't see this coming. I thought, okay, he's going to get some more truck races this year. He's definitely going to run some more ARCA. But Richard Childress Racing, he said on the Dale Jr. Download this week, Ty Dillon called him and said, "Come on down, big boy, what you got?" And he had to have a sponsor. I mean, he called himself a paid driver. He called himself that. All right, but he's got a car wash sponsor that's signed up, and he's got, I think it's 3 races this year and 3 races next season in a third Richard Childress Racing O'Reilly Series car, which they've paraded that out there for different drivers. Casey Kane ran Rockingham a year ago, and McFarland's first race is going to be Rockingham, where he got approved by NASCAR to run a truck on a bigger track. He also tagged the wall during that approval test. And I listened to I've like 20 minutes left. I've listened to most of his interview with Dale Jr. this week. And McFarland, I mean, I don't think he's putting this on. I think he legitimately wants to be a racer, and he has a lot of humility about it. And that's what he comes off as, is having a lot of humility. He knows he has a lot to learn. But he said the difference between stepping into this car versus ARCA is they're taking his data and putting it over Jesse Love's. And they're saying, look, here's where you're missing it right here. Actual SMT data in the simulator, not go out and have a good time, don't wreck, which is what ARCA is. So he's very excited about the potential to become a better driver, and his goal is simply to finish the race and not crash out. So, Devin, what do you think, man? Cleetus McFarland, YouTube sensation.
I would have to say this kind of reminds me of Danica Patrick 2.0. And let me phrase this way. And this is nothing against Cleetus McFarland or anything like that, but how the process is going. And he has less of a, for instance, when we look at Danica Patrick 15 years ago, she had all that IndyCar background, right? So she had more racing experience under her belt than Cleetus does. I think the issue comes along where, yeah, it's good for NASCAR to have him up in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series and probably potentially one day probably at a cup race at Talladega. It'd be good for the sport. Gets viewers in. And the thing is that he just doesn't race often enough in ARCA or the trucks to where, hey, now you kind of have a seat, a part-time seat in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. And this is nothing against him. It's just how the system is nowadays. I think it would be a good thing that he could be in the Cup Series maybe one day, but not maybe right now. Let's get him some more experience inside the car, because I feel like this upward trajectory is very similar to Danica Patrick's, where it feels like, all right, you know what, we're putting him in better equipment than what there really should be at, because it felt like Danica Patrick was boom, O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, and then boom in the Cup Series, and that's just kind of the vibe I'm getting here, is kind of a Danica Patrick 2.0 situation.
That's a great point. Is he getting too much to it? Now, it is only a 3-race schedule, and they're not just throwing him in. The thing that was surprising me about trucks is not that he got a truck start. It's just, bam, Daytona. That's Daytona, an ARCA. First ARCA race, never Daytona. It's like, gosh, start at, I don't know what the best start is. I mean, you can argue about. Yeah, start somewhere, but like just where it's not extreme anything, and you just get your feet wet. That's it. And see, there's somebody that is protesting in Dan's garage right now. That's just throwing that. They're a huge Cleetus fan. They thought Devin was in the garage with him. They threw a toolbox. It didn't happen. So, Dan, what you've seen over the years where people have just hauled, the shade tree. I'm using a cliche here, but like you've seen the shade tree car mechanic, and they just haul it to the racetrack on the back of an open trailer and run a cup race before. You've seen.
But this ain't that time,
right?
And you've got a lot of things that have changed. And when you look at this, you think, well, I look at it kind of like you've got a lot of momentum behind you trying to make you great, and you are professing to have everything in order to where you qualify to do this. Now it's going to be time to put up or shut up. And this is where kind of the rubber meets the road on the fact of, as you begin to get these rides, you're going to have to show some level of being able to get the job done, put in these situations where you got to get it done. There's no question about it. And there's no time to waste on any of this, because you've sidestepped a lot of the other series or practices or other things that drivers used to be able to get, and you don't get anymore. And to get this is very unusual, to get these opportunities, and you're going to have to make the best of your opportunity and show everything that you possibly can so that you can show people that you're the real deal.
Well, and I think he's going to make the best of it. And I think Childers signing him to a 2-year situation with this shows that they're a little more interested in something than just
Yeah, but
cashing in on
somebody
the
else
moment.
on the racetrack could you could have a bad day and it not be your fault and not
Right.
get to show what you're truly capable of doing.
I think
I
with the
mean, look at
technology they have now, I want to let you go, of course, Devin. With the technology that they have now, you can judge someone's performance overall better than just what the result is, just based on the different metrics they can show and the data. Was he getting it done? They have an in-car camera. They've got the SMT data. They can show, man, you were within a tenth of your teammate Jesse Love, and you did this. And if you just done a little more of that instead of you finished 25th, I think that's something where I think you could get a better read on that for sure. Go ahead, Devin.
Yeah,
I'm
but you
sorry.
got to be able to get a full-time deal.
Yeah, well, yeah, that too.
I mean, you go look at like the truck race this year, right? His first ever truck start. He crashes on lap six and loses control, right? Just
Yeah.
things like that comes with experience as you build up over time, and it's just sometimes it doesn't look good at the higher levels when there's just a very big lack of experience. Like, for instance, just spinning out by yourself on lap 5 at a race at Talladega, for instance.
Chase Elliott spun out in that exact same spot in his first Daytona 500. Jake Garcia crashed Tony Stewart in that same race, spinning out in almost the exact same spot. The difference is that Cleetus McFarland didn't realize as soon as some of the others that he was losing control, right? I mean, he almost overcorrected the wrong way and took out the whole field on lap 5. And it's him. It's all of that. So he's getting the criticism, but he could take it. And I don't feel sorry for him getting criticism. He doesn't feel sorry for himself. I just feel like he has the right attitude. He's not coming in thinking he's going to beat Jesse Love. He's not. But he's going to make the best of it. And let me tell you something right now. Any of us, if someone came to us and said, "Would you like to run 3 RCR fill in the blank races?" I would be like, "Sign me up right now." I don't care. I'm like, okay, yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out from there. I think he has more of a plan than I do. He did say he bought a late model to test around his own the Freedom Raceway Park or whatever the deal is, the track that's on his property. But he's bought a late model or is about to buy a late model to actually get some more reps instead of just running ARCA and truck races and so forth. So that's Cleetus McFarland. Okay, with just our last few minutes, we're going to look ahead to Phoenix. But first, I would just love to hear your takes, and I'll start with Dan. Chris Gabehart versus Joe Gibbs Racing. Gibbs suing Gabehart, who very unexpectedly to all of us said he wanted to leave Joe Gibbs Racing because he didn't like how his new move to director of competition was going and thought he should have more control equally over all the race teams, whereas the number 54 team of Ty Gibbs basically usurped him and went straight to Grandpa and the other executives of the organization. He's like, that's not right. Didn't like being Gibbs' crew chief. That's not what he signed up to do. Didn't feel like that team was being held as accountable as the other teams, which that's probably the most inflammatory part of this. But Gibbs didn't just say, hey, you breached your contract. They said, you knew you were leaving to go to Spire and took pictures and stored data on the way out. And a lot of you listening have heard that already. But we haven't discussed it here just yet. This news came out before the Atlanta race. Dan, your thoughts on this whole brouhaha?
It really does go back a long way on when a crew chief or a crew member leaves a team and goes somewhere else and what they take with them of the technology, the data, all the stuff that they've learned, that they've been taught, that they know. All of this goes with them. And I think that now that you are in a level, as I said before, you can be compared in this level now to F1. You're now truly N1 in what technology that you see and what could possibly be taken somewhere else and be used against you. And I think that this is one of those experiences now where the team felt that it was in their best interest to put a fear into other team members, crew members, that this won't be tolerated, so to speak, that if you decide to leave, then if you think that you're going to get out without some kind of repercussions, you better think again, because I just feel like this is the new normal. And it used to be the drivers that went through this, that you didn't like other teams stealing your driver and so forth. But now it is filtered down because of technology into the crew members, the team members. And I think you're going to have to be like they are with Gibbs, and the fact that you're going to challenge some of this stuff so that you don't keep fear of losing people to other teams just because the pay is better or opportunities are better. And I hate to say it, it's just kind of the nature of the beast right now. And we're beginning to see where all of this is going to go. AI is a great thing, but the information and all the stuff that you have access to now, you're going to be held more accountable, I feel like, in the future than you've ever been before.
That's a great point. Gabehart, by the way, responded saying he did not. First off, he didn't take the same role at Spire. He's their motorsports officer, chief motorsports officer, overseeing or helping oversee all of their motorsports operations, at least in North America. They didn't include the F1 team in that because keep in mind, the same team that owns Spire, the same company owns the Cadillac F1 team. But he said that. But basically, he said he didn't steal anything. He said he paid for his own forensic investigation to show that he didn't steal anything. And that he's not taking a similar spot, and he wasn't going to share it with Spire, whatever he did do. He also offered over his phone and everything, take all the pictures off and whatever. So it seems like he's offering a lot for somebody that's, if they were guilty, right? But nonetheless, Dan, your point is it doesn't matter guilty or innocent. It's more Gibbs' response. And remember, before you go, Devin, remember Gibbs sued an employee already that was leaving their team last year. All right, so there's obviously and I don't mean this in a negative way, but there's a concern or a paranoia about this kind of thing already. Devin, what were your thoughts as you've seen this unfold?
Yeah, I thought this was quite an interesting deal that's going on between the two parties because it's you try to go to a new team, you try to help them out, but then it's like, well, I can only use certain parts of my knowledge that I have to apply to this team because of contracts and stuff with the prior team. It's tough. I think it's a really tough situation nowadays for a lot of people moving across teams because of just the stuff that they can't bring over, essentially. And I thought it was the most fascinating thing was the Gibbs thing with Ty Gibbs and how that team is a little bit different. And I think it clearly shows on the racetrack week in and week out that there's a little bit of a different treatment there because if we're going to be honest about it, couple years ago, most of the Gibbs cars were all pretty much close together in terms of performance. Nowadays, you really don't see that because with the 54 just lags behind, essentially. And hasn't won a race in what? So that was the old 18 car.
2022.
Hasn't won a race since 2022.
Yeah, that's tough.
Doug, what do you hire another crew member off another team for anyway? You don't hire them for the looks or the fact that they've been there for 40 years. You hire them because of the level of experience they've got and what they know. They're hired on what they know.
Yeah.
And to say that I can hold you to that as a team owner, I don't know how this is going to move forward. Litigation is going to be another thing, and that's going to happen. But it's going to come down now to these contracts are going to be like the book War and Peace before it's done on what you can do and what you can't do. And if I leave, this is just going to be unbelievable in the future to me on where we're going and what we're doing. Anything simple now anymore because used to you could quit and go to another team and you took that knowledge with you and you used it and whatever. But that looks like that is changing forevermore.
Well, no doubt. And by the way, one point Denny Hamlin made, keep in mind, this was Hamlin's crew chief for several years, helped resurrect Denny Hamlin's career. Denny Hamlin said, and you got to point this out, Spire is not a satellite team of Hendrick, but they're certainly a customer of Hendrick. They're a Chevrolet team. You could understand as a Toyota team why you wouldn't want not just this information going across to another team, but going across because really there's like there's A1 and A2 as far as the top two teams of the Cup Series. They're ahead of Penske.
Technology. It's still technology, and what you leave with and what you take somewhere else definitely is going to hurt who you leave and help who you go to. But this is just, as I said, it's the nature of the beast right now, and you're going to have to make the best of it. But it's going to come down to me that the contracts are going to change on how all of this is written and what's going to happen in the future, because you're going to have to take all of this into consideration,
Yeah.
or you're going to be in court.
There is gardening leave in Formula One where you have to take 6 months or however long between one team and another. As you said, N1, right? N1, F1.
N1.
And by the way, F1 debuting this weekend. Their season debut will be in Australia. So watch for that. And the Drive to Survive is out. We got really nothing else to report there. But they have gardening leave, and I think at some point with high profile positions, especially, maybe not a tire changer, but with a high profile, authoritative type position, you may have to start having gardening leave between the teams because they can't all end up in court like this. We saw Cheddar Bob Smith go from the 54 of Ty Gibbs, I believe, over. Did he go over to Spire last year? There was something he was with. Ronnie Childers went to Spire, and Cheddar Bob Smith went from the 4 car as Stuart Haas over to the 54 of Ty Gibbs, and then I think he moved to Spire like in the middle of the year. I think that's what it was. It was something weird like that. And there was a lot of eyes like, oh, well, that's interesting. He's going to go work with Rodney. And then Rodney Childers got dumped right around the Bristol weekend or so, or it was after Bristol, but sometime in April of last year from what was driven by Justin Haley then. Okay. All right. We got just a few more minutes at Phoenix this weekend. We've only, I think, seen one of these in recent times, an IndyCar NASCAR Cup Series doubleheader, and it'll be Cup and O'Reilly Series and IndyCar, Indy and O'Reilly racing Saturday, Cup on Sunday. I think I have that right, don't I? Pretty sure.
Yeah,
Let
Cup
me look
on
at it.
Sunday, O'Reilly Saturday, and the IndyCar race Saturday.
Yeah. Pato, we're going to talk about this next week. Pato Award said he doesn't like IndyCar looking like it's the second rate series or whatever. But I'm like, compared to the Cup Series, except for the Indy 500, it is a second rate series. And it was the top bill when it was with the trucks in St. Petersburg. Okay. Calm down, Pato. But hey, we're all prideful of our own series. I get it. You can check out the schedules and everything like that on NASCAR.com or JSki or wherever. We're not going to break that down all very much. But as far as Phoenix goes, Jesse Love won it back in the fall for the O'Reilly Series, and Ryan Blaney won it for the Cup Series. The titleist was Kyle Larson. The most dominant car, of course, was Denny Hamlin until that last caution. But the tires, they broke, they wore out, they fell off, they blew in William Byron's case and some others. Anything, Devin, you're looking forward to this weekend? Do you think it's going to be Penske versus the field? Do you think it's going to be Gibbs versus the field? Do you think this is Kyle Larson breaking a winless drought or William Byron getting his, you ready, first top 10 of the season?
We'll see. I think Phoenix, this is the first really true regular racetrack that we're really getting this year. So I think things will start to probably shake out this week and then next week at Las Vegas.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Before I get your take on that, Dan, in the Gen 7 era, 8 races, Ryan Blaney, 7 top 5s, average finish 5.8 at Phoenix. William Byron, second most points, and it's not even close. Second most points, 5 top 10s in 8 races and a win. Blaney has 1 win. Christopher Bell is the only driver. No, Christopher Bell and Joey Logano both have 2 wins in the Gen 7 era at Phoenix. Christopher Bell's 3rd in those points. Kyle Larson 4th in points. Ross Chastain 5th in points. Again, Gen 7 era at Phoenix. Dan, anything you're watching for or favorites or anything else?
No, I'm curious to see how SVG runs at Phoenix. I'm curious to see if he carries on this gain in momentum that I've seen so far during the course of the year, and really pleased with his level of skill, how it's increased on the ovals, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he runs there. And I think that what I've seen out of Ryan Blaney so far this year, that I agree, he seems to be, he hasn't won the races, but as far as being there, he's been very consistent on being there and shows very much that he is a contender for sure. And is this a horsepower track? Oh, is this one of the? So they have to be a little bit setups, as Ricky Stenhouse Jr. said about setups and how aggressive you get on your setup. So a little bit interested in seeing what those end up being. And you won't be able to tell, as Devin said about qualifying, it doesn't really show you a lot, but I know track position does mean a lot, but at Phoenix, I think that you can make up, kind of like Daytona or Talladega, you can make up some at Phoenix and qualify more toward middle of the pack and be able to race your way to a win. I don't think if you have the right setup that would be a problem at all. But looking forward to Phoenix.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that. Well, that'll be late Sunday afternoon there. Cup Series does have the top bill. Sorry, IndyCar there at Phoenix. We mentioned Alex Bowman missing that race. He's already 36th in driver points as it is. It's just had a miserable start of the year, average finish at 33rd, and now he's going to be down a race too. And for somebody that you thought could point their way into the top 16, it gets tougher for sure there. So hope he gets well. He's missing that race due to vertigo. So thoughts and prayers to Alex Bowman. Final thoughts here, last couple of minutes before Dev has to go to work. Devin, you got anything else?
Yeah, real quick with the IndyCar the IndyCar and NASCAR doubleheader this weekend. You know, Fox now owns a part of the IndyCar series. I would like to see some more IndyCar and NASCAR doubleheader weekends. I think that would be really cool to grow IndyCar and then help out NASCAR as well, or in that type of deal. Maybe even do IndyCars at one track and NASCAR's at another, and do a doubleheader Sunday. I think that would be a really cool idea that Fox should look into more.
Yeah, doubleheader broadcast-wise on a Sunday. Yeah, we'll take that. I'd watch racing all afternoon if I could. Dan, final thought.
My thought is I'm kind of curious to see if Tyler Reddick could make it 4 in a row.
Yeah.
It is quite possible. And the momentum that they've got so far is the odds go more against that, but they've defied the odds in a lot of things and come out on top. So I'm kind of looking to see if they can defy them one more time and come up with a 4 in a row.
It's certainly possible. I mean, and the odds, of course, are against you, so to speak, on that, but why not? I mean, I play the hot hand if you're betting on it here. So Jimmy Johnson won 4 races in a row. And I knew I had this right. Oh, I'm so glad I looked this up. Okay, he won 4 races in a row in 2007. Martinsville, Atlanta, Fort Worth, Texas, and what was the 4th one in a row? Phoenix.
Atlanta. Oh.
Phoenix. Atlanta was the 2nd of the 4. It was Phoenix. Come on, T-Red. Let's do it. Well, I'm not pulling for it, so to speak, but let's do it.
You're pulling for the Toyotas, aren't you?
I'm just pulling for a great race. That's what
Captain
I need.
Herb would love that, wouldn't he?
Oh, Lord, the cheating Toyotas. The cheating Toyotas. Pearl Harbor. Remember Pearl
Made the hair
Harbor.
on the back of his head stand up.
Oh, my gosh, yes. When Chris Cockrum drove a Toyota, I laughed at Herb so much because Herb's name was on a Toyota. That was great. Okay, hey, last thought for me, and this is on a more solemn note, and I'm sorry to end this way, but Chase Pistone, who raced a little bit in the truck in the O'Reilly Series in the late 2000s and a little bit 2014 had some starts. He died unexpectedly earlier this week, and the family didn't say the exact circumstances, but published the 988 suicide hotline number, so we could probably add those two together. But thoughts and prayers to his family, Tiger Tom Pistone, and everybody. He was big in the Legends world, and it's tough to see. We've seen him and Michael Annett die way, way, way before their time. Of course, Red Biffle. So it's been tough to lose another person in the racing world. And on that note, guys, thank you for tuning in. There's no way to transition that well. Just be praying for them. But thank you for tuning in. Be sure to share this or interact with us. We're so thankful once again to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and his team for being a guest last week. Check out that episode and the clips we put up on our YouTube page and Facebook. And we'll check you next week here after Phoenix and looking ahead to Vegas on the 5 to Go podcast.